Hi everybody, how's it going? I'm Julie again.
This is Bizzo.
Hope everybody's doing okay today. We just wanted to put together a quick video about the group campaign project to make sure that you knew quite what was going on and how this was working and everything. You've already been assigned to your groups. You hopefully are getting to know them a little bit. If you're not sure who that is or what you're supposed to be doing there, please email us. This is not the time to get shy. I don't think any of you are really shy, and you know that we're not shy, so just wanted to go over the campaign project a little bit and let you know what's going on with it. So the campaign project is going to be posted probably today for my class and hopefully soon for Mezzo's class. We'll figure it out. You've been divided into...
This video, right?
I'm sorry, say that again?
We'll have it up by the time they're seeing. We'll have it up by the time they're seeing this, right?
Yep, absolutely. And I'm going to turn up your volume here a little bit so I can hear you better. So...
It doesn't happen very often that I'm too quiet.
I know, right? This is like a first ever. So we've divided you into groups. You've got groups that are from your school and from a different school. The reason, again, behind that is because in work groups, sometimes you're going to be working with people you'll never meet, and so it's useful to kind of have that experience. In a job interview, when you can now say, I've worked with people I've never met on a group project that I had to get a product for, an actual client. That's kind of ballin'. Not everybody can say that at the end of an undergrad degree. So, big deal. This is a lot of fun. Take advantage of it.
There's also a really great justification for bringing multiple paradigms together. So even though it's an online course and it's a good chance that many of you live in different places, there's still going to be sort of a similarity because of the school you've chosen to go to for whatever reason, whether that means you've taken similar classes or have a similar paradigm. And so combining VCSU, combining the two schools, right, is going to help expand those paradigms. So there's some really good educational reasons to do it as well.
And it's just fun to be able to talk with people in Megan's class. So, you know, winners. Yes. So essentially what this project is you will be creating a campaign for a real client. Okay. The book talks about the RACE method, RACE method. In my book, it's page 214. In Mizzo's book, it's page 13. They apparently thought that those textbook writers thought it was really important to do right away or something. Mine gave you a little bit more time to get into it. If you're not familiar with that, what that is, take a look. Take a look and read that in the text. That's a really important thing. And the fact that it's in both PR textbooks should tell you, even with different authors talking about it, that it's probably something important that you should know and that PR professionals take seriously and think about. So what you're going to be essentially doing is, one thing you could be doing would be creating a media kit. Ideally, what you're going to be doing is creating a project that's going to work the best for your specific client and your interests. Okay, so before we get into the actual super project thing, let's talk about some of the basics of this project. Things that you are responsible for. You are responsible for creating a group contract. We sent that out in the initial email with group member information. You're responsible for coming up with a contract to make sure that everybody is responsible for this project in your group. Okay, so this is going to lay out when you're going to meet, how you're going to meet, expectations for group members, things like that. Now, in an online class where you're not meeting in person, this is especially important. It's not like we're seeing each other in the classroom and you can say, oh, hey, we have this meeting this day on this whatever. You don't have that kind of check-in. It's really easy to disengage. So use this group contract as a way to kind of lay out what you're going to do as a group and so that you can be successful.
We all know what the best practices are, right? We all know that you need to communicate with your group. You need to plan well. You need to be making sure everybody has responsibility, making sure everybody's on the same page. I mean, we all know that. But we don't always do it, right? This contract is a little nudge, right? It's like, just do all the things you know you should do anyway. And put it in writing so that you can all hold each other accountable and we can hold you all accountable. Does that make sense? That's what the contract is.
That's good. That's a better nutshell. So that's one of the things you'll need to do. The second thing you'll need to do, and this is something you can start working on immediately, and I would say use your interests to drive this and use your connections to drive this. Find a company that you can work with. Find a client. So you've got 4 to 5 people in your group. In all likelihood, you know someone already that you can work with, or you worked with somebody that you can work with. Think about groups that you've volunteered with. Think about nonprofits that you care about. Think about places where you did internships. Think about places where you want to do internships. Think about places where you have a friend's mom's aunt's cousin that works. Use those connections to be able to get in and find this client that you can work with. Now, Mizzo's going to be creating some guidelines about how to work with other folks and find other folks and kind of make that cold call to a client. But, just think about who you already know. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Now, if there's absolutely no one that you can find, like you're the most unconnected, you live under a rock kind of person that there is, I have a few people that we can get you in contact with if you need to, but I think it's going to be much more of a meaningful project if you can find someone that you care about or already have an experience with. What do you think, Megan? Did I miss anything?
I'm also reaching out to some people to see if they want some help. And so it's not me directly connecting, but just sort of throwing them into all the groups and saying, hey, these people want to work with someone. We're using the word company to be all-inclusive, but I think that word is fairly misleading. When I think of a company, I think of like Fortune 500, right? Like lots of computers, lots of desks, lots of corporate dollar bills. Hey, if you, that I work this motion into any teaching instance I possibly can. If that, right, like if you're connected, if you have an aunt or an uncle that needs some right, like if that works, great, but that's not really what I think Julie and I are envisioning. We're thinking people who need to, they sell their stuff on Etsy, right? They run it out of their basement. I bet they would love 4 to 5 people that would help them do some PR communication stuff. Right, like be thinking about, really broaden that idea of company. Be thinking about entrepreneurial or, many of you, when you did the brand assignment, you used real brands, right? So, and many of them were on that level. So be thinking about that when you're looking for something to work on for this project.
Well, and that actually leads into the next part of the project is after you find a client that will work with you and that you can work with, your next goal is to create a detailed plan of work. Okay, so if you will scroll down to the next page of this assignment, you're going to see something that says sample plan. Now this has a plan that we suggested. It's based on this project that was put out by this really smart other professor that we didn't feel like we needed to fix a whole lot on. So what we did is we put together a sample plan along with how the plan would be executed and formatted. You need to create something similar to this based on the needs of your client and what you are interested in, okay? So maybe you have a client that wants to do a specific PR campaign about an event that's coming up. Maybe you're working with Marsha's Soaps and she has got the first farmer's market is coming up in May and she really wants to build hype for this, so she's going to put up newspaper press releases, she's going to do this, she's going to do giveaways, she wants to put up an Instagram. Maybe she wants to do this whole thing about this one event and she wants to have, she wants you to put up a Hootsuite, set up a Hootsuite account for her to help manage her social media account when it's just back to her and you're not working with her anymore. Maybe that's the project you're doing. That's maybe very different than the project that we have listed below here. So what you need to do is you need to think about what your client needs. You need to talk with them. What do they want you to do? What's going to be useful for them? In addition to that, think about what's interesting for you and what you would like to do when you get out of school. When you actually are working with companies, or if you run your own company, what do you want to have practice doing? What do you want to reach out for people? What do you want to focus on? Maybe you want to focus on online presence. Maybe you want to do a big, huge, in-depth communication audit of online presence for a company or an organization or an entrepreneur. That's perfect. Like, we want you to make this project something that's going to be useful for you and something that's going to be useful for the client. Now, we also recognize that you might have a client that wants you to create promotional materials, but doesn't want those promotional materials to be let out into the community within the time frame of this project. So that would be a little bit different than the project that's listed below as the sample project. We're aware of that. We want you to work with these clients as real clients. We want you to see them as real people and see this not as a simulation in this class, but you're actually going out and doing PR work, which is kind of cool. So, and Mizzo, you want to talk about this too from kind of a pedagogical standpoint?
I think that the main thing the sample plan does is to show you the level of detail you need to be thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done projects like this before, and I'm not great at giving samples because I want you to be creative and I want you to do it. Julie is awesome, and she finds like templates and guidelines. And so what's great about this is, you can still be creative and do what is effective and what works for you. But the plan, that sample plan is very detailed, and it's thinking about a lot of different perspectives and a lot of things that you'll want to think about, worry about, execute, etc. And so as long as you are aware of that and the level of detail, and you're not writing, 2 or 3 sentences like, this is the plan, this is what we're going to do. The plan, again, is there to get you to think about the stuff you need to do anyway to be effective.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And on that note, go ahead.
Keep going. I was just going to say, can I lead into the point stuff?
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to just go back to the plan here for a second. Now, this plan that you're proposing, we've got a timeline that we'll put up, and so that you'll know dates and all that. But the plan that you're proposing, it starts as a proposal. So know that you're going to send this to me and to Mizzo, and we're going to take a look at it and say, yes, that sounds great, or wow, that's really over and above what we expected. If you do 75% of that, that's perfect. Or you've only done, 1 press release out of 5 people. We need to increase the amount of work you're thinking you're doing here. So it's a plan that needs to be negotiated between the 3 of us, I should say, or the 8 of us, your group and the 2 of us. However, I can't do math. I don't have to do math. I have calculators.
Yeah, all of us.
All of us. It needs to be negotiated with all of us, your group and both instructors. So don't think that the first time you send your plan in, it will immediately be accepted. Okay? We need to see details. We need to see plans. Megan's going to talk about, or Mizzo's going to talk about kind of what we're looking at for evaluations and things.
And it's less about us as the teachers going, this is wrong, or you didn't do this right. And it's more of finding the balance between, we want you to use your creativity because it's your project, but we have a ton of expertise, right? Mm-hmm. Like we have master's degrees and experiences and a ton of group projects, right? Like, so then we can come back and say, hey, have you thought of this? Or hey, what about this? Or this might work better like this. And so it's using us as a resource without making us do everything for you and to trap you, right? You've had assignments like that where the professor thinks of everything, and they're not always as enjoyable or as effective because you didn't have the agency to make choices. And so we're really trying to balance that. And that's why that negotiation happens, is just to make it better.
Well, and then we can kind of jump to the idea of evaluation. We have about 1:30 we can left to talk about this before the screencast ends.
So I left my glasses in the car, so I'm my life's so bright I gotta wear shades today. Basically, and both Julie and I straddle the line. Like, we need to assess you. We can't just go with no points. I think both Julie and I wish we could just have a dance party and say, you learned stuff, you get an A. You didn't learn stuff, you don't get an A. But we can't do that. And so these are the things we want to assess you on, right? And I think that they are laid out, research, how you laid the plan out, how you approached the goals, what you did, how you identified the purpose. We really want there to be a professionalism, right? So things spelled well, correctness there. We want it to look good, right? We want it to be hot and sexy. I don't know if I can say sexy on the video, but I'm gonna. And we want some level of
30 seconds.
Individual reflection, right? So that not the whole thing is group done, but that we're getting some communication, some reflective paper or something. Where we're reading just your personal thoughts about how it went and how the work went and stuff like that. So it's not just about assigning points to these 10 things. These are the things you want to think about for sure, but it's about balancing these 10 things with the work that you did, right? So maybe you want us to look at the whole thing and evaluate your research, right? And that those are in all the pieces. Maybe you have an entire packet of research that counts for the first one, right? That's like, this is where the research is. Mm-hmm. So you want these 10 things to be in your work, but the grading may not be points for all of these things. It might be, we're going to do this amount of product, this amount of research, this amount of reflection, this amount of peer editing, that kind of thing. And so you really get to control how Julie and I kind of view or evaluate. Mm-hmm. And obviously, we're going to be grading you individually because separate classes, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that there's a hope, at least on our part, that we can evaluate you as a group, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously, if things happen, we don't want to make you anxious. I think there's some level of like, oh, what if my group fails me? And do I fail? And we're smart, intelligent people. We're working really hard to figure out how to balance all that. So if you're communicating, participating, doing an effective job, you shouldn't have anything to worry about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So due dates coming up then. Keep in mind you need to find a company or an organization or a client. Think of it like a client maybe. And have your group contracts done by March 14th. And those need to be emailed to us. You can see our email addresses over here on the projects list over here. And you need to have completed plans by March 28th. Now, if you look at your calendars, you're going to see that the VCSU students have spring break 1 week, and the LSUS students have spring break the following week. So after you have your company and contracts by March 14th, those next 2 weeks before the 28th, one of the two of you or certain group members might be on spring break. Now, if you're planning on being gone for spring break, do not leave your group in a lurch. Let your group know and say, I'm going to be gone this whole week, so we need to get our plan sent in before I go on spring break so that we're not just all trying to, manage it together, mishmash it together, whatever it might be. Okay? So plan that ahead of time. And these are dates that are really, they're not like set in stone dates, but these are dates that if you're not keeping kind of on this like timeline, you're going to start falling behind, and that's not going to be ideal for you. There's a lot of work that could go into this project, and you don't want to have to do it all at one time.
Nudge.
Yes. Exactly. That was beautiful. I like that. That should be an emoji or something.
Nudge.
So, I guess that's what I have for this project. Megan, do you have anything else? Is there anything else you want to?
Questions. It would be great if you included both of us on the email. That way we can kind of, make sure we're getting back to you right away and giving you sort of a cohesive response. Mm-hmm.
And if we need to, we can set up video meeting chat times with both of us, with all of us, with one of us. We can get stuff working. Whatever you need, we want to be here as resources for you. But as you've found through this online class so far, whether it's your first class or it's the 7th online class you've taken, you have to be the one to take the initiative for that. So if you're having problems, if you're having questions, you got to reach out to us because we can't see that you're struggling. We can't see that there's issues if you're not telling us. So use us as resources, use us as sounding boards, use your group mates as sounding boards, use your classmates as sounding boards, and let us know what we can do to help you be successful, okay? So, thank you.
Have a great day.